What's up, everyone? Wallis Deborah here. This is episode 3 of the WD method. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm a former Benin international soccer player, won international cap in 2017 against Gabon. Prior to that, I was brought up to the PSG youth system, then moved to the United States and joined New York Red Bulls Academy and then Players Development Academy while simultaneously attending Blair Academy boarding school in New Jersey. Graduated from Blair Academy in 2012, got the opportunity to play Division One college soccer at San Francisco University, then Cleveland State University right after. Upon graduating from college, got the opportunity to go to Asia, played in Cambodia and Thailand. Basically, had like brief spells in those countries. Then moved back to Benin, where I played for Vive du Borgo FC in the Benin top flight. So as far as my background, this is it. Upon retiring from professional soccer in 2019, after rupturing my Achilles tendon, decided to move back to the US and heavily invest in the development of youth soccer player in this country. Those of you that are not aware, I am the president and founder of Eastern Soccer Academy, which obviously no longer exists, but was a very impactful youth soccer academy that really embodied, all the values that a true soccer program in the inner city should have. Obviously, things didn't end the way we would all have liked it, but it was a learning experience and was very impactful when I see the amount of kids that were able to help out. So this was great. The WD method is my new philosophy, and I started this podcast a couple of weeks ago where I break down the youth soccer system in America. This has an educative purpose to parents, anyone that has children that one day want to get to play in high school or want to get to play in college or even want to go to the professional level. I've done all that, and I am in a good position to be able to guide everyone. And also my background from overseas, being able to experience a lot of the same overseas as well, make me a legitimate person to talk about this and educate everyone on the field. If you haven't watched the first 2 episodes, I urge you to go back. Okay, you can go on my YouTube, just type in WD Method. Same on Instagram, you can find us under WD Method. And the same on Facebook, we can also find us under WD Method. As far as myself, if you want to follow me on social media, you just gotta type in my full name, Wallis Deborah, okay? And you'll see my Instagram page, my Facebook, and and we're also on TikTok, right? That's the big thing that I didn't want to forget to mention. So let's dive straight into it. Today, our episode 3 is gonna talk about the exposure lie. Okay, so we're still talking about youth player development. American soccer is obsessed with exposure instead of development. That is something I've seen ever since I got to this country, and even more so as a seasoned adult, right, who got the opportunity to play soccer at the highest level, and as a coach within the environment, as the founder and president of a youth soccer organization. And that is something that is holding back the development of players in this country. We have showcases, right, in this country, a whole bunch of showcases. We have tournaments, we have highlight reels, we have rankings, all sold as solutions. What exposure really is, exposure is not development. Exposure is marketing, right? That's really how you should look at it. And I know a whole bunch of people spoke about it before, whereas, there's so many tournaments in this country. Instead of focusing on developing the kids, instead of focusing on doing more training sessions, people tend to want to go and sign up for tournaments. I remember, this is a little anecdote. before a parent signed up for my organization when Eastern Soccer Academy was still running, um, he was not even worried. That parent in particular was not worried about the project that we have in terms of player development, right? He wasn't worried about our pathways, even though we had the clear pathways that we presented to literally every single parent. His main motivation was how many tournaments a year do we take part in, right? And it's a shame because the tournaments don't get your child any better. You can do 20 tournaments a year, right? If anything, yes, it's fun. I get it. Any kids want to play into a tournament, but you cannot use tournaments, as a way to get customers to buy into your project. You cannot sell tournaments as this player development thing that out of nowhere is gonna make your child better, right? So this is important to keep in mind when we're talking about exposure. Exposure shows what already exists, right? It does not create intelligence. It does not build habits. It does not prepare players. So once again, it is training that does all of the above, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. Now, why showcases don't work? There's a few things that we need to get to the bottom of, right? Everyone is playing for themselves, right? That's technically what it is. Everyone wants to be noticed, right? It's no different than a tryout or whatnot. Everyone is playing for themselves. So in terms of player development or whatnot, there is nothing there. You cannot get that out of a showcase. There is no real structure in terms of player development, in terms of what you're doing individually to get yourself better. There is no real evaluation. Well, we go just like at a one-day tryout, right? You're going to have 20 players, and you're literally going to tell me that you will be able to evaluate every single one of those players? Come on, that's bullshit. It's not happening. And it's chaos football, right? Pretty much. So you cannot evaluate a player in a survival mode. In that way, it will never work out. Okay? So that's what I call personally the exposure lie. Because technically that does not help a player. Now, don't get me wrong. You play at a certain level, right? You play at a very high level. Your child is competitive. Yes, at a showcase or at a tournament, if he turns out and have a good day, it is more than likely that he will get an offer, right? Especially if there are scouts out there, there are college coaches, so on and so forth. But it is important to say that not everyone, most kids are not in this case, especially most kids in America are not at this level. So it's important to keep in mind that the more training your child get, the more repetitions your child will get, the better your child is going to become, and the more beneficial going to all these fun things is going to be. All right. Now let's go into the highlight real problem, right? So real show moments, not habits. Once again, it's I know, and right now it's important to understand that I'm focusing on soccer. I'm not focusing on American football, right? Which I don't have necessarily the depth to talk about. But I'm aware, even from my boarding school days, where we did have a pretty decent football team at Blair, that you can get recruited based off of a video, right? When you play football. Now, I'm not going to dive too much into that because once again, like I said, I don't have that much depth talking about it. In soccer, that's a whole nother story, right? That's a whole nother story because a reel can make somebody look bad, right? Once again, depending on the competition that's around. But then you come in person and you look at that player, you realize that he's the complete opposite of what you've been looking for. All right, so real show moments, not habits. So keep in mind that at the end of the day, right, you are not going to get recruited off of a reel. So parents that always put out their cameras and recording, or the games of their kids. Their kids is in U10, right? They're already recording, and I guess want to make him or her a social media celebrity. Think about what you're doing, right? I don't think you're doing your kid any service, right? In this case, if your kid is good enough, well, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily gonna be off of your rails, right? The games he's gonna be playing in are gonna get recorded, and if anything, people will come to you, right? That's what you need to understand. So to go off of the highlight reel problem, so like I mentioned, reels show moments, not habits. They hide bad decisions, right? We all know when it comes down to being a good soccer player, decisions matter on the field, right? Based on your position, but decisions do matter. They reward in some cases, they reward athleticism, not intelligence. Even though, to be a soccer player in this day and age, you need to be athletic, right? Athleticism is also a must, right? Unless you're really absolutely technically gifted to the point where you don't need to get yourself into those situations, right? Maybe a small center mid who knows how to play in two touch, which is kind of rare, right, in modern day football. Yes, you see players that are able to do that, but you still need to have the baggage. Otherwise, it is difficult, right? It's very difficult. And your highlight reels oftentimes do not really show your work off the ball, right? Oftentimes, those are moments that are dictated what you're doing with the ball. So it's also important to know that a lot of the people that are making those reels don't necessarily have the understanding of the game, right? So, oftentimes, the parents that are recording it, the only thing they're worried about is whenever the kid has the ball, what they do with it or when not, which is fine, but your movement on and off the ball is just as important, okay? So in a nutshell, we can say that clips don't show who you are. They show what you want people to see, right? So keep that in mind. Another point that I want to go over, what real coaches look for. And when I mean real coaches, let's be clear, right? Over here, I'm really talking about not coaches that are just out there with no meaningful experience on the field. I'm talking about whether it's college coaches, whether it's pro level coaches, and at the youth level, at the grassroots level, talking about coaches that actually have experience that contributed to the growth of players. Those people are looking for consistency. Consistency is the number one thing, the number one habit that a coach want to see. Consistency in what you're doing, whether it's your work rate, whether it's your activity on the field, whether it's how much ground you cover. Consistency all over the place. You need to make sure that you have it as a player. So keep that in mind. Never forget. Decision making, like we talked about, right? Do you scan the field before you receive the ball, right? Or you're that type of player who gets the ball, then try to think about what they're doing. If you're not seeing the game before you receive it, you're not going to survive, right? The game is a fast-paced game. So keep that in mind as well. Game understanding, right? Which could be referred to as IQ. Now, oftentimes in this country, a lot of people do not watch the game, right? They play, but they do not watch it. The more soccer you watch, the more your IQ is going to develop, and the more you're going to understand what a coach is trying to do in certain situations. I found myself in some situations where I'm breaking down the game to a kid, basically showing him that this run could have opened up space for his teammate, right? Even if he did not receive the ball, that could have opened a space for a teammate. But again, it literally looked like I was speaking Chinese to that child because he has no brain, right? He had no brain. He doesn't watch the game. So it's important, and I can't stop the whole practice, right, to literally break it down even more. So, keep that in mind. Decision making is a game understanding, all that matters. And lastly but not least, behavior under pressure, right? When you play the game, it's one story, and I really can speak on that, right? Playing the game in front of 35,000 people, right? Remember the African Cup of Nations 2013 Algeria, where you literally have 40,000 people that want to eat you alive. Like from the stands, literally looks like the kids not the kids, it literally looks like, well, there were kids out there too who were wild, but literally looks like the fans out there skipped a couple of meals and, ready to, get it on with you, So it's something to keep in mind. Um, why parents fall for that exposure? Keep in mind that a lot of parents are misinformed, right? We can say it this way. A lot of parents are misinformed, uh, fearing of being late, fearing of missing out, desire for certainty, which you can't guarantee any certainty when your kid is a U10 player, and exposure feels like action, right? The parents literally feel that, oh, we're doing something, we're putting our kids out there. But the truth of the matter is, buying exposure, yes, it does feel productive, even when it isn't. So let's keep that in mind. Now, what are some of the damages? Because it does create damage, when you look at it. Kids are being exposed before they are developed. And then, they already start getting labels, and that's an issue, right? It can also potentially ruin a kid, right? So very many layers in terms of damages that this does. So keep that in mind. That's the real harm. And I want to close out this episode by saying that development create exposure. Exposure does not create this development. Okay, so I'll say it one more time. Development creates exposure. Exposure does not create development. All right. Next, I'll explain what actually develops real players, but then I would like you guys to bear with me. Okay. Hope everyone has a nice day, and yes, peace.